Welcome to another video for 7th and 8th grade science. In this video we're going to be discussing what are amphibians and reptiles. This is part 1 of the video where we'll only be discussing the first half of this. So amphibians is our focus. So here are some of the objectives that we want to cover in this video. We're going to describe the major characteristics of amphibians, different orders of amphibians, and then finally we'll finish up with amphibian metamorphosis. Okay, so let's describe some of the major characteristics for amphibians. Here I have them listed, and you can write these out in your notes. They reproduce near fresh water, so they have to have fresh water nearby, and this can come in the form of ponds, lakes, streams, where it's nice and humid. Few have adaptations for dry land. They're classified as salamanders, frogs, toads, and caecilians. Juveniles live in water. They're dependent on that. They have gills. And then as adults, they are better suited for land, where they develop lung tissue. All right, so let's take a look at the different orders of amphibians that we're going to be discussing. So the first order is salamanders, or Urodela. Urodela meaning the tailed ones. Okay, so these have tails, and this is the first order. The second is the frogs, or Anuria. Okay, this means tailless ones. Okay, so your salamanders are your tail ones, the tailed ones, and these are your tailless ones, so your frogs. So as they develop into mature adults, the tails that they have in the larva stage, in the tadpole stage, they shorten up and disappear. And then you have your toads that are included in that as well. And then finally, the different order of amphibians is the caecilians, so your Apoda. These are your legless ones, so these do not have legs. And they resemble earthworms, segmented worms in their appearance, but they're actually reptiles. They're nearly blind. They spend most of their time burrowed underground. So in summary, here are the three different orders: your tailed ones, your salamanders, your Urodela, Anuria, your frogs, your tailless ones, and then finally your caecilians, Apoda, your legless ones. All right. So let's take a look at some of the other characteristics for these amphibians. They're ectothermic. They cannot regulate their temperature internally like some other organisms. So the spade-foot toad, for example, they spend most of their time underground. They will come out to feed at night or when it rains. So here I have a little excerpt of a video with the spade-toed frog coming out of its habitat. So they'll come out to feed when it's moist or at night. So that way in the daytime when it's hot, they're not having to, they don't have to worry about overheating. All right, so finally let's talk about metamorphosis. Metamorphosis you might remember from when we were talking about your arthropods. Okay, so we'll start off with our egg stage in frogs, and then they develop into a tadpole. And at this tadpole stage, which is a larva stage, is when they have their gills. They're breathing by filtering oxygen from water that they live in, the fresh water. And as they develop in time, the late tadpole stage, they start to develop their forelimbs, and the tail that they had will begin to shorten. Okay, and then finally the adult frog stage, the juvenile stage, where they have now developed their lung tissue and they're primarily now land animals. Even though they're primarily land animals, they still live near fresh water, okay, because that's where they're going to reproduce. So you'll notice where I have my arrow pointed at. This is kind of the tadpole and late tadpole stage. This is where the metamorphosis occurs. And I mean, you go from having gills that are being exchanged to lung tissue. Okay, and some frogs even breathe through their moist skin. So oxygen diffuses into their skin and they're able to breathe that way. Now there are some species, okay, some amphibians like the axolotl that are found in Mexico that retain, oops, let me go back, sorry. These species will retain their both their gills and lung tissue. So they have both, they have that advantage, okay? So somebody who studies reptiles or amphibians is called a herpetologist. Okay, so if that's something that you're interested, that would be the career path for you to take. So a person who studies amphibians and reptiles. Oh, looks like it wants to repeat. Okay, well, that does it for our amphibians part of the video. That's part one, and part two will follow suit. Okay, good luck in your studying.